season has come to an end. As Arkansas fails to put 5 wins together, they can't even put 2 wins together. They put 1 win and 1 loss together to have a big crap sandwich as they fall to the South Carolina Gamecocks by a score of 80-66, and it weren't that close. It weren't a 14-point game, I'll tell you that. Not in the second half. It was way worse than that. So this will serve as like, we'll recap the game. We'll talk a little bit about the season. And lick our wounds. It was pretty depressing. The game starts off pretty great. Actually, you start to feel like kind of good. I think at one point we were up 9 or maybe 11-3.
It was 11.
11-3. Brazil hit like back-to-back threes. You felt decent about it. It slowed down some, and Brazil got in foul trouble, and of course you didn't expect you were going to blow them out. You go into the half down 3, which doesn't feel like the worst thing in the world.
Should have been down 1.
Should have been down 1. They let a guy run a play. I don't know what that was about.
They get a finger roll layup in 3 seconds from one end to the other. I don't care. It's bad defense. Like, it's great play by them, but all you have to do is someone has to just slow him down.
Yeah, it's terrible. Anyway, though, down 3, you're like, okay. And then we just got blitzed the second half.
The second half was disappointing. I mean, like I said, there's not even...
how much were we down? We were down by as much as 22 or something like
that. It was at least that much. I felt like maybe it was more at one point, but it was the way that they came out in the second half, I thought was disappointing. I did think that we played, I don't think we probably were going to win that game. South Carolina just has bodies that are crazy. I mean, we've got Steph Curry bodies, and they've got, Karl Malone bodies, and they were probably in that war of attrition in the second half. We're going to win that. But I think we could have put more effort in. Our effort was, with the exception of,
I thought Mitchell put the effort in.
With the exception of Mitchell, and I was trying to think if there was somebody else, but Mitchell mostly, he worked hard and he performed well in the second half. I feel like I'm echoey. Do I sound the same to you as you do?
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, I thought Mitchell played tough down there, but everybody else, I don't know. They just were loose with the ball. They looked a little scared once they started to get it taken to them. And
how many times did they load up one side and then get a guy? The amount of dunks that were happening and layups that were happening based on collapsing defense, maybe just stay home.
Well, some of that in the last 10 minutes was once we got down by multiple 15 and 20. We started obviously trying to not press, but soft panic defense where you double a lot and we were trying to turn
they were just way too connected for that to work.
Yeah, we were trying to get turnovers to get quick points, and instead they got dunks.
Yeah.
Again, I think that comes down to the woes of this team from the beginning, which is just they are not a high IQ defensive team. And they're definitely not a team. We've said this in the beginning. They cannot get down because it's very difficult for them to get multiple stops in a row. And when you're down, obviously that's what you have to do. And they just don't do that. They need to play with a lead. And, even then, no lead is safe because they are capable of weak defensive spurts where teams go on 10-point runs in over 45 seconds. You know what I mean? But ultimately, bad season. Disappointing. There's not a lot to say about it as far as I don't think there was really any...
Well, I think South Carolina is a good highlight for what our problem was most of the season, because they exploited it both times we played them. And we talked about this early on, but the difference in physicality. Now, I'm not saying you got to be South Carolina. Like, I mean, South Carolina maybe is the most physical, them and Mississippi State, but South Carolina is as physical as any team that we played.
Mhm.
Just big dudes. I'm not saying you have to be that, but you have to have more of that than we had. We didn't have like hardly any of that. You had Mitchell, and that's kind of it. And when you played against this big physical team like South Carolina, like that, your a lack of physicality really got exploited. And like it was, you might be able to hide and mask some of those things against certain teams. But South Carolina lets you know that they're big boys and you're not. And you saw what happened. One thing that was interesting is I did watch the post game. Muss only brought Battle to the post game interview, and they asked Battle what he thought happened, why South Carolina was able to do that, and his answer was very interesting. He said they played together, they were a team. That's why,
Mhm.
which is kind of I mean, it's not like calling your guys out, but it's sort of saying some of the things that I think we knew all along too, like the continuity, despite despite not having like the physicality, um, you also didn't have continuity either, and that seemed to be what Battle was saying. It's like, yeah, like the team won. The guys that had they played as a team, they won. We didn't. We lost. Um, and then Muss, when they were talking to Muss, they asking him about what this is like, because this is the first time he's never had this happen to him before
Mhm.
anywhere.
I have a below 500 season.
Yeah. And I liked his response too. He said that he's never been, they asked what he's feeling. He said, I've never been more motivated in my entire life than I am right now. And all I want to do is get to work. Which I like that.
Yeah, I like that too, because I will say, I mean, it's different. You're always analyzing these situations with like half the information. So you're trying, I mean, it's a little bit like politics or something where you're trying to figure out what people's motivations and what's wrong, but like you only have half the information because I don't know what these guys' relationships are like. I mean, for all I know, Ellis and Battle really don't get along, or yeah, or maybe they get along great, but they just don't have good basketball chemistry. It's hard to know
Yeah.
what the coach knows behind the scenes, but I will say this is the first season where I'm definitely more disconcerted with the whole, I mean, the coaching, the players, because we always say Muss's gift has been he will get the best out of the ingredients that he's given. And I think this is the first time where I definitely don't think that happened. Like
Yeah.
these guys, I mean, I don't know if these guys would ever have the ability to be a great team, but they certainly had enough talent on that team to get over 500. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's the first time where Muss never was able to get them to ever become something. They kind of, I mean, they did better at the end a little bit. I mean, it didn't really result in wins. It just resulted in them not getting blown out by 20. Instead, you're
Yeah.
losing competitive 5-point games instead of getting, humiliated in your own arena by 20 points. But which is an improvement and definitely better. And definitely these last 5 games have been more exciting and fun to watch than the middle 10 games.
Yeah.
But it's definitely makes me much more sanguine about where these last couple of years, it's just been my expectations have just been growing and growing, where it's like Musk can do no wrong. He's just gonna, whatever guys he's bringing in, it's gonna be good. We're gonna win games. This is making me much more cautiously trepidatious about
Well,
incoming
yeah,
seasons.
I think that what I was happy to see with Muss is that Muss did not look um he didn't look upset in a like depressed and discouraged way. Like he was gonna go home and like, finish off a bottle of Jack Daniels and be bummed out for, until, after the tournament or you know, until he was started had to go into the portal or whatever. He looked um unsurprised, and he looked I don't want to say he looked pissed off. He looked like he had a very like determined like kind of feel about him, which I like that. Like he see it like him saying I've never been more motivated. All I want to do is get to work. He seemed like he wants to like he can't wait for his chance to like fix this, like to put something else on the floor and to get to wipe this away with wins, that kind of thing. Which I like that better than like, you know, being all Eeyore and like and discouraged and that kind of stuff. I'd rather you be motivated. I'd rather you be like determined, a little pissed off, you know. But he definitely didn't look like this surprised him or anything like that. I think he was probably a realist about the whole thing, but
Well, the reason I would say, like I said, and I'm not saying I'm trying to be, articulate the way I'm feeling, but without being overly hyperbolistic or exaggerating. I mean, obviously, Muss's record speaks for itself. He's a good coach.
yeah, and by the way, there's people out there like, man, you guys bother me. Okay. You people out there like on social media and on message boards and this kind of stuff.
Not the people listening to this. He's
Not you guys. Uh, I don't think. Uh, but there's people out there calling for Muss's job. This kind of like, guys, do you know what kind of disaster that would be? Like, y'all have the shortest memories. Like, that's the dumbest thing in the world. And or like, stop that. Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair to go, okay, well, that's I guess it's that you have this guy that is like, I mean, we're worried about him getting like last year, we're like, yeah, I hope he doesn't.
Well, right now there's all this buzz about him going to like leaving and going to Louisville. Now, do I think that and Louisville is like a prestigious job or like has a prestigious history anyway. It's not been good as of late, but I don't think that you should go from Arkansas to Louisville. I don't think that's an upgrade unless I don't know, the fans are like, you know, messaging your daughter and crap and like and you're just like and they're just making you miserable. Like don't be those people, man. Don't
Although,
do
I mean,
that.
I agree. I think to a certain extent, though, the world we live in nowadays, if you're a head basketball coach, there's just such a per, per you're going to get a tiny percentage of the biggest, you know, I don't know, just trolls and assholes that
Yeah.
are going to somebody, no matter where you go, if you're at a high level program, somebody's going to be sending your messages to your wife and your brother and your whoever saying terrible things. And
Yeah.
they might even not be fans, but like, that's just, I think that's just par for the course. Now, I hope Arkansas doesn't have a disproportionately high number of those people, but no, I wouldn't be worried about Louisville. I mean, him going to Kentucky and leaving the SEC, I would be worried about in the future. I feel like for him, UCLA is the job offer that would scare me because, I mean, for a California guy, UCLA is the program that is, you know, I mean, the winningest program in college basketball history and all that. But I'm not worried about, I mean, obviously not even talk about that. It's just that this is the first thing. Like if this happens, like if next year he does okay, but say you win 17 games and miss the tournament, now you are like, uh-oh, like the SEC is too good. And because now you're on the path to a couple of more seasons and now you have to look at it. But I mean, like I said, I'm not saying I'm worried about Muss as a coach. His record speaks for itself. He's like I said, this is the first time he's never had a winning season. But there were things this year beyond just the overall record and performance that did, like I said, have my antennas up, because I was more confused this year by substitutions and like I said, and this is without knowing what's going on in the background where you just have to, I'm still trusting that Muss knows what he's doing and that the reason Battle didn't play like hardly at all for like 5 games is something to do with him teaching him and him not playing defense and him trying to get him to understand you don't get minutes if you don't put on a certain effort. And it, by the way, seemed to work because Battle became a completely different player defensively in the second half. I mean, he still wasn't like an amazing defensive player, but he was way better. I mean, he was getting like 5 minutes before. But it is curious. You're like, God, how can your by far apparently best scorer, like not even see the floor for large periods of the season when he's not hurt and when you're just trying to figure things out. And just the fact that like you start Menafield and it feels like stuff's starting to happen, and then you sit him. I know he was injured later, but you know, there was definitely some things where I still don't understand what happened with a lot of the what he was trying to do. And that's not saying because I don't understand it that it's wrong. It just means I don't have some of the information, or Muss had a bad coaching year. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like either thing is possible. But yeah, I mean it's a bad feeling. I don't like it. I like it a lot more when you're um, you know, going to the tournament and you feel like your coach, you're worried
Yeah.
about everybody poaching your coach versus you're worried about is your coach as good as you thought? Because like immediately as a chronic negative fan, like what starts to creep in is, well, wait a second, last year we actually were like kind of we weren't amazing. We just had an amazing run in the tournament. You know what I mean? And it's like, is that and even those games were like came down to a few
Yeah.
shots and stuff. And like so you just start to like the paranoid, are we going to go back to being a middle of the road, you
Yeah.
know, middle to bottom SEC team? Because also I have to admit, I was when we lost that game, when it became clear, I was more I was surprised how quickly I had become used to being in the tournament. And I forgot how, and I'm a huge college basketball fan, watch the girls basketball. I mean, I'll watch any competitive sport, really. I'm kind of a junkie for that. But watching the tournament is much less important and meaningful when your team's not in it. Even when your team's even in it, and even if it's they've already played and it's the next day, you still like watch all the other teams because you might play any of them,
Yeah.
and you're
Yeah.
like watching them almost like a scout, like who am I afraid of, and like who's going to make the next round. And I mean, I'll still fill out a bracket and watch it, but I was as soon as I realized, oh, this is the end of the season, I realized, oh, the tournament is denuded of its excitement
Yeah.
considerably, and I forgot that's how it was for the last 20 years before Musk came in here,
Yeah.
and that sucks. But it is a bummer. It's a bummer of a season. Disappointed, but what can you do? I mean, you just gotta hope for hope it's just a blip on the radar,
Yeah.
and that next year's better.
Well, one thing you do know is that you're gonna have a lot of different players next year. I mean, it's not one of those things where you're like, he's got to get these guys shaped up. I mean, it's like they're all sophomores or something. That ain't it. I mean,
Mhm.
the majority of this team's gone. Um, so, Musk is gonna have to go figure out. I mean, I sure hope he goes and
If you're gonna lean forward with
oh, sorry.
that.
I sure hope he goes and gets some physicality. I think that we need a little bit more of that, especially, I mean, Mitchell's gone. I mean, you're gonna have to replace that and some with some physicality. We could talk a little bit about, and we'll probably do a video once like, the roster is complete and that kind of stuff. It'll be a while for sure, obviously. But once the scholarships are all taken and everything, maybe we'll do a video and talk about who we have coming in and that kind of stuff. But I think that the things that you would like to see, um, I hope Layden stays. I hope he doesn't go anywhere. Um, I hope I would I'm of two minds here. So I hope Layden stays because I think Layden can be an important piece going forward. Uh, Obviously, I would love it if Battle came back. He can. He's alluded that he might or will. We'll see. I think there's probably maybe a reason Muss had him in the press conference and only him. I think that his transformation was like kind of one of like the cool things about the season, and I think that he could be. You can build around him.
Mhm.
Like, you've got this guy that can get you 30, any given night, and you can build around that. Then you can try to fill out the rest of it. And
His I really like having a uh scoring guard who can
get to the foul line,
get
get
to the
down
foul
hill.
line.
Yeah.
And he has a special first step and ability to draw the second defender and then wiggle through there and get the foul and sometimes still get a pretty good
Yeah.
ball thrown up there. And I like that. I wish, I mean, to me, the perfect player is when you have a guy with a point guard's mind that can also do that, because then he becomes
Yeah.
so dangerous as a distributor when he's doing that. I mean, because right now Battle's you got to guard the three, and then that makes it hard to guard the drive, and so that's difficult. When you have a guy that can hit threes and drive and also is a good passer, I mean, it's like they're unstoppable.
Right.
You know what I mean? But still, he's got a special ability to score and get to the free throw line, which is one of those. It's like being able to score. The getting to the free throw line is when your shot's not going, you can still get 17 points even when you go 2 for 15 from the floor. You can still get 17 points if you're able to drive like that. So
yeah, no, I mean, I think if he will stay, you can build around that. Like that would be a huge piece. I'd like to see Muss. I mean, not that. I mean, I think Layden could develop into the point guard. I think he's more of a, he's obviously right now like a defensive guru. I think you could maybe put him off the ball and have him guard the other team's best guard. And if I was Muss, I'd be thinking about maybe trying to go and get an experienced true point guard. I think we didn't have that on the team. We haven't had that on a team in a while. I mean, Anthony Black was our point guard, and he was a good point guard, but he was also a freshman. I wonder if he can get a guy that's got experience that can run the show. While Battle can be your primary offensive weapon.
Sorry.
There's you gotta silence that phone.
I know, I thought I did.
Do
you want me to? Do you want to? Are we going to cut this or do you?
No, I'm not gonna cut it. Just mute that. They're just telling you that your car's done, dude. So I think that would be a good thing. As far as the other guys on the roster that could come back, I guess Mark can come back. I tend to think he won't. I don't. Mennefield, we'll see. I don't know what's the deal with him. I don't know if it's just injury or what. He didn't even travel, I don't think, to the tournament. So that's weird. So we'll see. Here's a question. Joseph Pinion. I'd like him to stay. Would not blame him at all if he didn't.
Yeah, I mean, he won't play basketball,
Yeah. And I would root for him, like, wherever he went. I mean, if he decided, like, you know what? Like, this is not, I'm not going to get on the floor here. I could go be like a really great piece at, Arkansas State or wherever. I can go there and probably start. And I would not blame him at all for doing that, and would no,
I mean, if I was good enough to play college basketball, I mean, obviously I would love to sit on the Hogs bench and just cheer those guys on and wear a Hogs jersey. That would be amazing. But after
Joseph Pinion's a little bit, it's weird. It depends on how good you are. And it feels like Pinion's a little too good for that.
Well, and there's still a part of me where it's like, well, can I go to Missouri Valley and like actually like have fun, like play and get a bunch of shots up? Like that also would be fun. You know what I mean? So but
you might go down to he might see Pinion down there, he might do what KK did and McKell did, go down there to Little Rock and tear it up. I mean, you look at McKell, he was, I think he was all whatever their conference is, second team, and I think KK Robinson was first team, whatever, I can't remember the name of that conference, but yeah, dude, I mean, that's better than just, I mean, if you just feel like, all right, man, the next 2 years, my junior and senior year are going to be the same, I'm going to be riding the bed, unless you just don't care and you just want to be, and you want to go there, and that's fine too. And I'm like that, all that said, I'd love him to stay. I totally understand it if he doesn't.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess I'd love him to stay if he's going to do anything and see the floor, which if he's not, then, fine.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, whatever he wants to do. I would love to have a 3-point shooting specialist. That would be cool too. Which we haven't really had. But well, sorry guys, I'm all depressed, but we really appreciate everybody who feels like we've got about 100 people that listen pretty consistently and maybe 50 that listen all the time. And we really appreciate that.
Yep.
I know it's not been, especially because this year, I mean, what a bummer. It's been pretty much all negativity. Because nothing that good has happened. What can you say? There's always next year.
Hey, there's the football season. Spring football game coming up. Don't get your hopes up, guys. don't do it. Watch baseball. Time to get into baseball. Baseball team's doing good.
Man, and the girls, they also had injuries, and that ended up being
That was a bummer.
that was a flat tire of a season.
They were better than they finished too, which is a bummer. Like they you know, you had this freshman phenom get hurt, and then
I feel the worst
Sailor
for
got hurt, and
Davis and you know, the senior players that this is their last year. It's a bummer of a way to go out.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I guess I'll just have to root for Caitlin Clark and watch girls basketball now. It is funny because I feel, even though the girl, I mean, I'm a fan of the Lady Hogs, it feels less like I'm less devastated. I was bummed about their season, but the guys, it's like because this is just happening. Like I said, I'm in the anger phase of grieving. I literally am like, I don't even want to watch the tournament right now. You know what I mean? I'll just watch the girls tournament and watch them do stuff. Well,
All right. Well, thanks for watching, guys. We will come back at some point. We'll do an episode once this roster reconstruction happens, and tell you who's on the team and what we think about them with a little bit of information that we'll have. But we'll make that video down the road. Till then,
see you in a couple of months.
see you.